Margaret stood at the entrance of the elegant ballroom, her navy blue gown catching the soft golden light from the crystal chandelier above. At 38, she had learned to carry herself with quiet dignity, though her heart still fluttered with the old familiar nervousness. Her blonde hair fell in gentle waves past her shoulders, and she smoothed down the fabric of her dress one more time before stepping inside. The blind date had been arranged by her colleague, Patricia, who meant well but didn't quite understand that Margaret had made peace with her life. She had a good job as a librarian, a small apartment filled with books, and a garden where she grew tomatoes each summer. Romance, she'd decided years ago, was for other people who fit into society's narrow definitions of beauty. Across the room, she spotted him, Thomas Brennan, the man Patricia had described as successful but lonely. He was tall, perhaps in his early 40s, with dark hair swept back neatly. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, and there was something kind in the way he smiled as he noticed her approach. She could see the flicker of recognition in his eyes. They met in the middle of the room, and he extended his hand. His grip was warm, gentle. "Margaret?" he asked, his voice carrying a soft, reassuring tone. "Yes. Thomas, I presume?" She managed a small smile. "Please, call me Tom." He gestured toward a quieter corner where 2 chairs sat beside a window overlooking the city lights. "Shall we?" As they settled into their seats, Margaret felt the weight of a lifetime of disappointments pressing on her shoulders. She'd been on dates before. Not many, but enough to know how they usually ended. The polite conversation that grew thinner as the evening wore on. The vague promises to call that never materialized. The pitying looks, she decided, as she often did in moments of vulnerability, to be honest. "Painfully, completely honest. Tom," she began, her voice steady but soft, "I need to tell you something right away. I don't want to waste your evening." She paused, gathering her courage. "My mother used to say it. My sister still says it. Even strangers sometimes think it out loud where I can hear them." She met his eyes directly. "No one marries a fat girl, sir." The words hung in the air between them. Margaret watched his face, waiting for the familiar reactions. The uncomfortable shifting, the quick glance at his watch, the sudden remembering of an early morning meeting, but Thomas didn't look away. His expression softened, and something that looked remarkably like sadness crossed his features. "May I tell you about my mother?" he asked quietly. Margaret nodded, surprised. Her name was Dorothy. She was a large woman, as you might say, round and soft, with the kindest hands I've ever known. His voice carried the gentle weight of memory. "My father married her when they were both 23. They had 42 years together before he passed. 42 years of holding hands at the breakfast table, of dancing in the kitchen when they thought I wasn't watching, of love letters tucked into lunch boxes." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving Margaret's face. "The last thing my father said to me was this: 'Tommy, I was the richest man in the world. I married the most beautiful woman who ever lived.'" He was talking about my mother. And he meant every word. Margaret felt something crack inside her chest. A wall she'd built brick by careful brick over decades. "The world is full of fools," Thomas continued, his voice gentle but firm. "People who measure worth in inches and pounds, who mistake packaging for the gift inside. But here's what I've learned in 43 years on this earth. Kindness is beautiful. Intelligence is beautiful. A genuine smile is beautiful. And courage." He paused. "The courage to be vulnerable, to be honest, to show up even when the world has been unkind. That's the most beautiful thing of all." A tear slipped down Margaret's cheek before she could stop it. She laughed, a little embarrassed, and reached for a napkin. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be." Thomas smiled. "I have a proposal for you, Margaret. Let's prove them all wrong. Not just your mother and your sister, but every small-minded person who ever made you feel less than you are. Let's start with dinner. Real dinner, not this fancy party food. A place where we can talk, get to know each other. No expectations, no pressure. Just 2 people sharing a meal and a conversation." Margaret studied his face. There was no pity there, no condescension, just genuine warmth. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why would you want to?" "Because in the 5 minutes we've been talking, you've shown me more honesty and courage than most people show in a lifetime. And because," he added with a slight smile. Patricia told me you grow the best tomatoes in the city. I've been trying to figure out my garden for 3 years. Margaret laughed then, really laughed, and it felt like opening a window in a room that had been closed too long. Deal, she said. But I'm warning you, I talk for hours about composting techniques. I'm counting on it. They left the party early, driving to a small diner that Thomas knew, the kind with vinyl booths and coffee served in thick ceramic mugs. They talked until the place closed, and then they sat in his car in the parking lot and talked some more. About books and gardens, about loss and hope, about the ways life surprises us when we least expect it. 6 months later, Thomas proposed in that same diner at that same booth. The ring was simple, a single stone that caught the fluorescent light. I love you, he said, not despite anything, but because you are exactly who you are. Kind, funny, brilliant, brave. Will you marry me and teach me everything you know about tomatoes? Margaret said yes, laughing and crying at once. At their wedding, small and intimate, held in Margaret's garden among the tomato plants, Thomas gave a short speech. Margaret's mother once told her that no one marries a fat girl. I'm here today to say respectfully that her mother was wrong. I'm not marrying despite anything. I'm marrying the most beautiful woman I know, the kindest heart, the brightest mind, the best gardener in the state. I'm the lucky one. I'm the one who gets to spend every morning having coffee with my best friend, who gets to grow old with someone who makes me better just by being herself. Margaret's sister was there, wiping tears from her eyes. She approached Margaret during the reception. I'm sorry, she whispered, for every cruel thing I ever said, for every doubt I planted. You deserve this happiness. You always did. Margaret hugged her because that's who she was. Someone who believed in second chances, in the possibility of change, in the power of forgiveness. Years later, when people asked Thomas what attracted him to Margaret, he always said the same thing. She had the courage to be completely herself. That's rare. That's precious. That's everything. And Margaret, who had spent so many years believing the world's harsh judgments, learned something essential in her middle years, something she wished she'd known at 20, that real love doesn't see in measurements and numbers. It sees in moments and kindness and truth, that the right person doesn't make you feel like you need to be different. They make you grateful to be exactly who you are. They grew old together, those two, arguing about the best tomato varieties, holding hands at the breakfast table, dancing in the kitchen when they thought no one was watching, living proof that the world's cruelty is no match for one person's genuine kindness, that it's never too late for happiness, that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply show up as ourselves and trust that somewhere, someone is looking for exactly that.